Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know, let's go. My next guest comes from the DallasExpress.com. Dallas Express is a website that takes DFW news and really Texas news that falls through the cracks, gets ignored by the legacy media, often because it doesn't fit the narrative. But when we talk about new alternative platforms are giving a voice that used to be silenced, this is what we're talking about. Chris Putnam, welcome back on from the Dallas Express, sir.
Thanks, James. Great to be back.
Well, first things first, you guys did some great coverage of the protests that happened over the weekend. I was told there's another round of protests that's supposed to be today. It was the 50-51 protest where 50 states, 50 state capitals, all on one day. And I haven't really heard anything about it. Do you guys have someone in Austin watching that, or?
We do. We've had reporters embedded in most of the protests so far. As you know, like when we talked, I think about a week ago, one was kind of outed actually at the Fort Worth protest and ended up just asking questions to the crowd. Yeah, so we'll have somebody down there. It's really interesting. What we're really focused on right now is digging into who exactly, is organizing and funding these protests. And we have a pretty good idea. But we're trying to get some, facts behind it before we publish an article.
Well, see, this has always been the sneaky thing about protest is they can take what is an extreme minority position, flaunt it in the streets, get all kinds of flowery, sympathetic news coverage, and make the average person think that this is a widely held belief. And never has that been more wrong in Texas. We just had the Hispanic vote go towards Team Red, so more than half of them clearly disagree with the protesters.
55%.
Yeah, and
55%.
And then for, the 45% that are left, some of them are apathetic or indifferent or don't have a strong enough opinion. What we see in the streets is really becoming a fringe minority view.
Look, it's purposeful. It's organized. By the way, it ties directly to what you're seeing in the news in the last couple of days with respect to U.S. aid. I'm sure you're familiar with that. U.S. aid funds a lot of the NGOs that take huge amounts of money from our taxpayers. Catholic Charities is an example, and a lot of them are pro-immigration. And they literally have participated in trafficking a lot of people from South Central America, Mexico to the United States, and their money is dried up. So I always tell people it's like follow the money, and you'll understand like what the source of the organization and funding of these things it actually looks like. To your point, it is not a reflection of the majority of the electorate. We know what that looks like now.
I like your focus on the organizational aspect of it. I remember 10 years ago, I was doing a morning show in Waco, and they had this group called Prosper Waco, and they kept showing up at city council meetings, and they're all wearing the same T-shirt, and they all match, and they're all reading from the same script, and they're just taking up all the public comments time, and they're acting like it was some grassroots organization. You do a couple of Google searches, and you find out, well, there's a Prosper Kansas City, there's a Prosper Abilene, there's a Prosper Laredo, there's a Prosper Colorado Springs, and so this wasn't a grassroots organization. This was very much some well-funded top-down template that local activists were signing on to. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with these protests. And really, who is paying for all this?
So this is the point. We are.
Oh.
That's the point. It's, by the way, it's completely analogous. I mean, it's not in dispute at this point that U.S. aid was, I think the number is $40 million that got directly contributed to the lab in Wuhan to do gain function research. They covered it up. We're doing this to ourselves with our own taxpayer money. And that's why the Trump administration literally chose U.S. aid as the very first department to go after hard and to gut, because it's literally the heart of the deep state. And so, again, think about it this way. You have all of these NGOs that are immigration focused, like Catholic Charities. They have been receiving money, huge amounts of money, for years now from USAID, from our taxpayers. That money is now gone. It's over.
Well, hang on. How come it all goes one direction? We don't have some NGOs that are getting taxpayer money that are running around talking about gun rights and, trying to expand the Second Amendment. How come all of these go for Team Blue?
Because like every other bureaucracy in this country, they were absolutely politicized, over the course of, let's say, the last 12 years. As we know, like in the Trump's first administration was completely distracted by Russiagate. He didn't know what he was doing at first. He, actually ended up, putting people in his cabinet that were not the right people for, what he was trying to accomplish in terms of reform. And so they've had 12 years, basically to do whatever they wanted. And some of our most trusted bureaucracies have been hopelessly politicized. The IRS is another example. We know DOD is another example. DOJ is certainly an example, and the FBI. That's what's happened here. And to me, this is like the biggest story, not just like of this year, but, maybe of a generation, because there is a revolution going on right now inside the federal bureaucracy. Maybe it's a civil war, not a revolution, but it's one of the two. And it's going to continue to be very interesting to watch. But these protests are literally just they're an adjunct reaction to all of that's going on. Again, follow the money. All of these NGOs that have been getting tens of millions of dollars to support immigration in whatever form, to promote it, basically.
Right.
Their money's cut off. And so what do you think they're going to do?
All right. I've got another question, but I'm out of time. Can you hang on for 4 minutes?
Sure.
All right, because there's a local independent school district here in the DFW area that has 20 sexual abuse cases with the perpetrators unnamed. This just came out on DallasExpress.com earlier today. You'll hear about it from Chris Putnam, CEO of Dallas Express, coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You really want to be with... What song is He Loves Me Not? Who sings this? You know this, don't you, Garrett? Dream? All right. You just lost 4 points there, Eric. I'm playing. There's no point lost there. You don't gain any points for that one, though. Hey, welcome to The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, yeah. That was, weren't they from, like, Making the Band or whatever? Anyway. Chris Putnam is continuing with this, DallasExpress.com. They break a bunch of DFW news and Texas news, a lot of which falls through the cracks of the legacy media outlets. So we always love having him on to talk about the stories that you might have missed. Also, want to just awkwardly invite him. Hey, Brian Kilmeade is coming to the community beer up here, like Commonwealth and 35 on February 26th. Now, it's a party for our sister station, KLIF. But, Chris, you should come out. Say hi. I'll be there.
No, that would be fantastic. We actually do a lot of Dallas Express branded events at that exact same venue. It's a fantastic venue.
How long has it been community beer? Wasn't it like a theater or something?
I actually don't know what was there before.
Yeah, it was like a Costco or something big there. Anyway,
Costco maybe.
All right, so let's talk about this. This is the kind of stuff I love from Dallas Express. Y'all have a story that I haven't seen anywhere else. Fort Worth ISD has over 20 alleged sexual abuse cases still open here, and all of these didn't make it into the news. So, is the sexual abuse problem at our local schools worse than we thought? This tells me yes.
Oh, no. So let's be clear. We have a sexual abuse of children epidemic in our Texas public schools. We're actually doing a series right now on it. This article is part of that looks at the problem holistically. What you get, from the media at times, the legacy media is they'll report on this, if somebody gets actually arrested, there's this case or this case or this case, and you see all the cases kind of individually, but nobody's actually examined, the problem holistically. And so that's what we're in the process of doing with this series. And yeah, Fort Worth ISD, as you know, is very challenged in a lot of ways. Academically, it's one of the poorest performing in the entire state. The city leaders, that aren't necessarily affiliated with the school district, have literally called for reform of that district as a result. And you and I just, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, talked about, the situation with, the educator that basically raised the flag about how many illegals. Yeah,
the substitute teacher lost his job for saying that he had to communicate with 40% of his students through a translator app.
Yeah. And so like Fort Worth ISD has all these challenges, and it literally impacts the city's ability to recruit white collar, high paying tech and finance jobs to the city. That's why they end up in the suburbs or even in Dallas, which has, close proximity to the park cities in good schools. I mean, because you can't tell an employer, hey, come to Fort Worth and you can either go into some of the worst schools in the state of Texas, or you're going to pay $20,000 a kid for private school. And this is just another example. But again, like the epidemic of, child abuse or child sexual exploitation in our public schools is really a huge story. And of course, as you noted, 20 documented abuse cases in Fort Worth alone.
Yeah, so who's been doing a lot of good work on that? They have the Bad Apple series on TexasScorecard.com. You may want to cross-reference your notes with them because...
Yep, we do.
Oh, good, because...
by the way, they did a story recently on the number of felons, like convicted felons that are actually, educating our children.
Wow. Oh, I didn't see that one. You were pointing out here on DallasExpress.com, Chris, that out of these 20 cases that you guys looked at that are still open from Fort Worth ISD, only 2 of the perpetrators are on the do not hire registry. I think that's a huge problem too. Like everything I read about the story makes it a little bit worse, Chris.
Well, it's not only that, they won't talk about it. As you probably also noted in the story, they will not provide a comment. And, said that the source of information contained in the document came from a third party. Therefore, they were unable to answer questions about it. It's just ridiculous.
Well, when we go back and actually get to the bottom of some of these records, are a lot of these like false accusations or things that can't be proven. And so, maybe that 20 number is a little hyperbole when you get to the truth of it, or are most of these legit?
I mean, we've seen no evidence of that. Without having the data in front of me, I can't tell you the exact number, but we've seen no evidence of that. I mean, a lot of them seem to be totally credible.
Okay. Chris Putnam, what do you guys got coming out on the Dallas Express that we hadn't seen anywhere else?
We're really focused, again, on – I just think that the biggest story in the country right now, and the biggest story in years, is what we're now learning about the waste and corruption and abuse of our taxpayer dollars through U.S. aid into these NGOs. And you're going to see the Trump administration going at it in an incredibly, hard way, with the folks on the left, and they're going to fight back because that has been the tool that they have used to control the media. That money has flown to. That money is, there's actually, to your point, like there's a story right now, we're just literally getting confirmation on it because it's floating out there in the social media universe that Politico has basically can't make payroll. And the allegation is because the U.S. aid funds were cut off. So those U.S. aid funds were funding, journalists that, took one perspective, the perspective of the left, and we're weaponizing that against Republicans. And so it's just a huge story, huge. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, we're basically paying for sex changes in Venezuela, DEI, musicals in Ireland, all sorts of crazy stuff.
All right, Chris Putnam, I appreciate your work on DallasExpress.com.
Thanks, James.
Good stuff. Put it in your rotation. DallasExpress.com is one of the sites I lean on for material for the James Show. When you wonder, where do you get all these stories? Well, this is one of the places. DallasExpress.com, TexasScorecard.com, CurrentRevolt.com. I've got all the little secrets over here. Just keep listening to the James Show. Coming up next, I have an expert on AI talking about the new DeepSeek. Will they rival NVIDIA and all the AI we got going on here? And Alibaba says they're jumping in with their new AI model. We have ourselves a good old-fashioned AI brawl coming up. Details next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Hey, keep it right here on WBAP. We will continue bringing you updates if there's any new details on the planes that bumped into each other at the Seattle airport. I know that's top story. There's been a whole lot of executive orders that have been flying out the window since the James Show started a couple hours ago. We'll keep you updated on those as well. And also, Brian Kilmeade's coming to town. He's going to be here later this month at Community Beer, which is Commonwealth and 35, just not too far from where I'm at right now. It's going to be on February 26th. It's a party for our sister station KLIF. So he's going to come in town. And he did this last year, too. It's really cool. It's going to be just an event where he's on stage and he'll talk a little bit. They actually recorded some stuff to be used on a podcast or maybe on his show. They replayed it later. But the cool part, the reason you want to go is he'll take questions from the audience. And people were asking him some really personal questions and some really, I don't want to say inappropriate questions. It's just be uncomfortable if it was in a more public setting. So it's a pretty cool deal. They already have some info up. Check it out, klif.com or communitybeer.com. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is coming back on the James Show. She's an immigration attorney here in Texas. And, we had a series of protests over the last couple of weekends, and there was one that's happening in the state capitals in all 50 states, supposedly, today. Do you think that the protests are generally helping the cause or calcifying opposition to them?
Well, my guess is that the opposition doesn't care so much about the protests because, if anything, they probably are maybe a nuisance. But I was at the protest in Austin, where I live, for several hours today, and I can tell you that the people who were there felt some community, some support, some solidarity, and generally felt uplifted by just being around like-minded people. Because I think what can happen is, you just doom scroll and you see all the news and it just feels very scary and overwhelming, and then gathering with a group of people that are all sort of motivated to talk about it and fight back at least feels somewhat better.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that there's some people who can't have their mind change on this subject either way on both sides of the aisle. But there's a whole bunch of people on the fence that I think I would recommend, if you are an immigration protester, put down the foreign flags and pick up the American flag, because you're kind of, if you don't want to have an allegiance to this country, you want to have allegiance to another country. I don't think that's going to be well received by the natives.
I think I take your point. What I can say is that, a lot of the people speaking and talking were talking about how much immigrants contribute to this country, how immigrants, they've probably built the Capitol grounds we were standing on today. And this country is awesome and great and everything that it is because of immigrants. And so it's really more around let's honor and respect and admire immigrants and their contributions to the United States. And that's what the conversation centers around.
Well, see, this is another point that I think a lot of people find abrasive, is conflating legal and illegal immigrants. There's not a widespread movement against legal immigrants. Most of the consternation and complaints are about illegal immigration, and the deportations are obviously of illegal and not legal immigrants. So when you put those two together, I feel like you're kind of talking past your opposition.
It's really interesting that you bring that up, because my perspective feels similarly about it. Feels untrue for, right-wing people, Trump people, to say we are all for legal immigration, because if that is true, then why are we seeing things like the cancellation of the CBP One app and the cancellation of certain parole programs and the mechanisms where people really are doing everything they know to do to follow the right process? Those are the things that are being revoked.
Well, I can answer that, because that presupposes it's the right process. The CBP app and some of these other like little new paperwork things that came up in the last administration are just a clear workaround loophole, so these people don't have to wait in line. They don't have to go through the already established legal system. And I can't blame them. It's like, an 11, 13-year wait to get in from Mexico legally. And so this is just a way to get around that and cut in line through the legal immigrants who are trying to do it the right way.
Not necessarily. I understand where you're coming from, but immigration is really complex. The main ways that people immigrate are through employment and family-based immigration. And just like you said, the wait times are really backlogged. But we've also granted asylum and certain parole programs in this country since after World War II. It's a 70-year-old law that we have. And so creating a system, a mechanism where people can register and submit their background check and wait for their turn is the right way to do it. And so until we see actual expansion of legal pathways that reduce the backlogs, I won't believe it when I hear people say I'm all for legal immigration, because that's not the actions that we're seeing. And I'll tell you, I mean, just it's like people are saying, oh, it's the criminals who are getting deported. I literally had to call a mother yesterday and tell her that her husband and her son weren't coming out of their check-in appointment. And she was crying because her son's going to miss his AP test. You know, someone who never has had a criminal history, like interaction with law enforcement before in his life.
Is he an illegal immigrant?
He's an asylum seeker.
Right.
And another client that did the week before that is
an asylum seeker from where?
Well, I'm not going to reveal.
What, from Mexico? See, this is the thing. If you're an asylum seeker from Mexico, that sounds like obviously you're exploiting the asylum as another loophole to not have to wait in line.
Like from Mexico?
Yes, because
that's not the way asylum works. Asylum is: have you been persecuted? Do you have a well-founded fear of persecution based on your race, your religion, your nationality, your political opinion, or your membership in a particular social group? It doesn't say, oh, if you're from Mexico, you don't qualify for asylum. That's not what the law says. That's not how Congress wrote it.
If 11 million people qualify for asylum, then the definition is too broad. And if they are so persecuted, why are they running around downtown flying Mexican flags if it's such a hellhole place that they can't live there?
Listen, somebody can have pride in their country and they can also not feel safe going back there. That's how the Venezuelans feel. And there is nothing wrong with people having pride in where they came from and also believing in the greatness of the country.
No. They should be very proud. They should also pick up an American flag if this place is so much better that they have to jump the line in front of the poor legal immigrants who are also from Mexico but doing the right thing. I just think that's unfair to the legal immigrant community.
You're assuming that immigrants don't feel extreme pride and gratitude to
Never assume that. Well,
then why did you say, why aren't they picking up the American flag? Of course they are. They love this country. They think it's incredible. This is the land of opportunity. But that doesn't mean that they can't also feel pride in where they came from.
Of course they can, but they're not flying American flags.
How do you know that?
Because I see them with my own eyes.
They're not flying American flags. Are you going around and talking to every single Venezuelan? Stop making sweeping arguments about communities of people when you don't know anything about them.
I didn't say zero people flew an American flag. I'm saying from my own eyes, when I saw the protest, there were far more flags of foreign countries than American flags. And that seems counterintuitive for people who are claiming asylum.
Listen. People are protesting the treatment of the American government of people of other nations. So it's not really the kind of place where you're going to see a bunch of people celebrating the actions of America. But there were American flags there, too. I mean, there were flags from all over the place.
Martin Luther King flew the American flag, and he grew up in segregation.
I'm not saying that no one should fly the American flag. What I'm telling you is because someone is flying a flag from another country doesn't mean they don't also love this country.
Love it. This is why I like having you on. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch doesn't back down for nothing. You get credit for that. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Find her at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. She can put up with me. She can probably help you with your case, too. I'm James Parker. Coming up next, some more sound bites from the news. You want to hear a congressional representative saying Elon Musk is not qualified? Isn't that hilarious? You'll hear it in about 4 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. I'm News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm your host, James Parker. Jeff sent me a message on Facebook talking about my previous guest a couple segments ago. Said, if you have this woman on again, I will quit listening to you every afternoon. She is the enemy. Well, listen, I can't have everybody that's on the show someone you agree with. Here's what I can do. I can balance it out by having another lady on the show that's going to say pretty much the opposite of what you just heard from the immigration attorney. In fact, you probably heard of her before because she's on two of the platforms I love. Sara Gonzales from both the Blaze TV and Texas Scorecard. Welcome to The James Show, Sara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, now I've seen you on, I've seen your work on Texas Scorecard for a long time, and I've seen some of your videos pop through on the Blaze. When I saw you at the protest downtown and the videos that came from it, don't take this the wrong way. I didn't realize how short you were. You look tiny. Are you like 5'1"?
I'm 5'3", but
okay.
You're pretty close there. Yeah. Well, I wear heels all the time,
okay.
So people don't realize.
You just can't tell on TV, you know. Like when I meet people in real life, I'm often surprised by that. But with your small stature, you were brave out there. You were given as good as you got. They were threatening to run over you. They were threatening to bleepity bleep your bleep, and you were just shouting back at. You were just saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see you people go. I can't wait till you leave. Go home." And the level of bravery there, I'm pretty impressed.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's time for them to go home. It's time for them to do this the right way. And I had a lot of people who told me who were there who claimed that they were there illegally. Obviously, they have no reason to lie about that, and said that they were here illegally. And they said, well, who else is going to pick your berries? And I said, well, you know what? If we really, truly can't find Americans to do those jobs, then guess what? We will be seeking out legal immigrants who can come here and do those jobs that you claim that Americans can't do. But we at least have to have law and order. And these people just did not understand that, did not get that. And yeah, I'm ready for the American taxpayer to stop paying for this level of insanity.
Well, the level of threats you got, I have a feeling that if you were on Team Blue and the threats were coming from Team Red, you would be heralded across national media as some sort of Joan of Arc icon at this point. The level of abuse that you suffered just on Sunday was pretty reprehensible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Someone run her over. Go walk out into traffic. And it extended into the days that followed as well, because I had several different death threats. My husband received some death threats as well. These people are really mad about those of us who are calling out, just the dangers of this open border. And I will say one other thing as well. When I tried to point out to them, hey, guys, what about the cartels? What about the human trafficking that's happening? What about the women and children who have atrocities done to them just trying to get to the border? What about that crisis? What about the fentanyl that's pouring into our borders? And none of them wanted to have a conversation about the very real dangers of this illegal immigration and open borders policies that Joe Biden, of course, perpetuated. It was really shocking to hear they wanted to hurl all of these insults and threats, but nobody seems prepared to have the conversation to address the real problems with, of course, this whole system.
Don't you get a pass because your last name's Gonzales? They were calling you racist and bigot out there. And I was like, that certainly doesn't fit for Sarah's case.
Yeah, well, it's funny because they couldn't figure out which one they wanted to call me. They kept telling me that I was European, and then they kept saying, well, you're one of us. You're indigenous. You look indigenous. And so they weren't quite sure what to do with me. But, I just give myself the pass.
I love the duality.
I can do it.
I love the duality that's going on with all that because, Garcia, Fernandez, Hernandez, Gonzales, these are all European names. They're all of European origin. And if you call yourself Latino, you mean Latin? You mean like from Italy, Roman? Is that what you mean? Because that's a European reference too. So it's funny how they can be indigenous when it counts and not be indigenous when it counts. And we're colonizers when we came here, but they're coming here and they're not colonizers. So it's just defies logic there.
Exactly. Well, I do tell them, Obama was only half black, and he was, of course, the first black president of the United States of America. So I can call myself whatever the heck I want with the mix that I am.
Well, I also like that you take what's essentially a national platform that you're on and a state platform, and you still focus on Dallas stuff. You're doing an event with Alan West coming up that's talking about what's going on here in Dallas, and I kind of want to go to that. Tell the people listening what's going on with your Alan West event.
Yeah, so I believe it's Thursday, February 27th, if my memory serves correctly.
That's correct.
Okay, great. So it's that evening we are going out, and they just want to show people more about the candidates that are running. It's just so important to get involved at a local level, at a state level. I know people get really excited about President Trump and his agenda, which I am too, but we have to keep our local, municipalities and our states as red as possible. And we're not going to do that without, of course, vetting the candidates and finding out who's running, who do I want, what is their platform. I think people often forget that. So
Sarah, we need
out there with them.
We need a Doge here in Dallas because I just read, what was it on Dallas News or something, that they're going to spend $4 million to study the idea of making a walking path from the Arts District through Deep Ellum to Fair Park. And not only do we not need it, we already have it. It's called sidewalks. They want to spend millions of dollars on art installations and whatnot. And I'm not even sure if anybody walks from Arts District to Fair Park. I'm not even sure if one human being has done that in the history of Dallas. Like, these are just terrible ideas. And the news on the local paper and local TV stations, they haven't found one of these dumb public works projects that they didn't like.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think that people who live in the city of Dallas and people who live in all of these left-leaning cities, now is the time. They have seen what has happened at the federal level. They see that they're being taxed to death at these local levels. And even in a place like Dallas, I do think that you guys could make some headway if you have the right people in charge of things. So,
Right.
I mean, think about it. We are being taxed now more than ever. We've got the national Doge. Everyone's excited about it. Now's the time.
All right, Sara Gonzales, you can catch her on The Blaze. She's a TV host there. In fact, her show comes on at like 6 o'clock our time. And then what time?
Yes.
Yeah, 6 o'clock our time. And then also sometimes I see her on the Texas Scorecard. But you can catch her live Thursday, February 27th. Her event's going to be up in Addison with Alan West. If you need more information on that, Google it. Don't be lazy. All right, Sara Gonzales, thank you for being on The James Show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Give them hell at the next protest, too. I like the audio.
Well.
All right. Because she said some cuss words to him, too. And I thought that was extra brave. Like, if I said that, someone would be punching me in the jaw about now. All right. I got one segment left, and it's going to be full of just emails and Facebook messages and texts from you guys about the stuff we were already talking about. So, listener response next on The James Show. If you want to call in, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.